The night before I was supposed to get engaged to Leo, my best friend Chloe and I were tangled in my duvet, whispering secrets like we had since we were kids. That's when she told me hers, a secret that shattered my world. She was 4 weeks pregnant. The father was a man she had never introduced me to. Chloe's face was a mess of conflict in the dim lamplight. "Eva," she whispered, her voice tight. "What do I do? Do I choose the baby's father, or the London job?" The promotion to the London office was the culmination of 5 years of brutal, relentless work. But I could see it in her eyes, she couldn't bear to let go of this man. My answer was instant, a gut reaction. Go to London. A career is a hell of a lot more reliable than a man. With tears shimmering in her eyes, she pulled out her phone and typed out a 5,000-word farewell manifesto to him. Later that night, I found that same manifesto on Leo's phone. Leo was in the shower, and his phone wouldn't stop buzzing on the nightstand. I figured it was just colleagues sending early congratulations on the engagement. I picked it up. Pinned to the top of his messages was a name, Chloe. My Chloe. The girl I'd shared everything with for 26 years, since we were toddlers running naked through sprinklers. 10 minutes ago we had been hugging in my bed. What could she possibly have to say to Leo that required 5 consecutive messages? "Leo, you and Ava are getting engaged tomorrow. I guess this is where it ends for us. As long as you're happy, what do my tears matter? I'll be there tomorrow to watch your sacred moment. And then I'm heading to the London office. Goodbye." I read the messages again and again. It was her, no doubt, the little tilde at the end, the heart emoji she always used after every serious thought. My hand shook. The phone suddenly felt heavy. A roaring filled my ears, drowning out the sound of the shower. I couldn't connect the 2 images in my head, Leo, the man who adored me, and Chloe, my soulmate, my sister. So the baby Chloe was carrying? It was Leo's. A crushing weight settled on my chest, hot tears stinging my eyes. The bathroom door clicked open. I shoved the phone back onto the nightstand, my movements jerky and unnatural. Leo smiled, his hair damp, his face warm and open. "Have a good chat with Chloe? I bet you two have enough to talk about for 3 days and 3 nights when you're changing your status on her." The words were a stone in my throat. I couldn't force the accusation out. He plugged in the hairdryer. "So, my beautiful fiancé-to-be, are you still willing to do the honors tonight?" Usually, I loved drying his hair. It was our ritual. But the thought of his hands, of their shared intimacy, sent a wave of nausea through me. "My throat's a little scratchy," I managed, my voice raspy. "I think I'm just going to sleep, if that's okay." He was all concern, scooping me up in his arms and carrying me to the bed. He tucked me in before glancing at his phone. I watched as his posture stiffened, the muscles in his neck tightening. "Babe, I'm just gonna run out and grab some gum," he said, his voice strained. The moment the door closed, I was up, pulling on a pair of sneakers, my heart pounding as I followed him out into the night. My desperate, silent prayers went unanswered. Down the block, under the weak glow of a streetlight, I saw them. The world tilted on its axis as Leo pulled Chloe into his arms. I bit down on my knuckles, the only thing stopping a scream from tearing out of my throat. Leo's large hand rested gently on Chloe's stomach, his voice trembling even from a distance. "Why didn't you tell me? It's my baby too." "And what good would that do?" Chloe's voice was thick with tears. "There's no future for us. Tomorrow, you're promising your life to Ava." "Are you serious about London?" "Yes. And I'm not keeping the baby." Chloe's chin was set in a stubborn line, pushing against his chest even as her body betrayed her, leaning into his warmth. Leo wouldn't let go. His thumb stroked her cheek, wiping away a tear. "What about me? You're just going to leave? Just throw me away like that? Did you even think about how that would feel? You have Ava? That's enough. We never should have let this happen." "But I love you, Chloe," he choked out. "You can't be this cruel. If you leave, you'll gut me." That broke her. A sob escaped Chloe's lips and she melted against him, their bodies fitting together perfectly. They clung to each other, lost in their tragic romance, making me the villain in a story I never even knew I was in. At 1 in the morning, Leo slid back into bed beside me. The tear tracks on my face had long since dried, my throat raw. He wrapped an arm around me, his lips finding my shoulder in a gentle, familiar kiss. "Babe, I'm so nervous," he murmured into my skin. "The engagement party is tomorrow. It all feels like a dream." That night, we were worlds apart in the same bed. The next morning, my parents were already a whirlwind of activity. Our families had a traditional streak. An engagement party was a big deal, a house filled with neighbors, friends, and relatives. Leo's family arrived with flowers, platters of food, and cases of wine. He told me to rest, said I looked tired, then seamlessly took his place beside my parents, playing the perfect son-in-law. It was Chloe's parents who pulled me aside, their faces etched with a gravity that made my stomach clench. "We need to talk to you in your room, sweetie." The moment the door closed, Chloe's mom, a woman who had bandaged my scraped knees and baked my favorite cookies, fell to her knees in front of me. "Mrs. Evans, please get up," I pleaded, rushing to help her. Her husband, a man I called Uncle Mark, had been like a second father to me. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Her words came out choked with sobs. "Ava, I know what we're about to ask is unforgivably unfair. But Chloe, she's our only daughter. We can't stand to see her like this, completely shattered." She looked up at me, her eyes begging. Could you find it in your heart to step aside? To let her and Leo be together?" I stumbled back, the room seeming to shrink around me. I couldn't draw a full breath. Uncle Mark spoke, his voice heavy with regret. "Chloe was wrong. We know that. But you can't plan who you fall in love with. She's stubborn. And now, with a baby, we're terrified she's going to do something reckless." A cold dread spread through me. My face felt like a mask. "So you've known? You've known about them this whole time?" Growing up, I had practically lived at their house. They treated me like a second daughter. Every gift they bought for Chloe, they bought one for me too. Our friendship was a 26-year monument, something I thought was indestructible. And I was the only one who didn't know it was built on a lie. Mrs. Evans clutched my hand. "Blame me, Ava. Don't blame Chloe. You know how much she truly loves you, how much she treasures your friendship." She squeezed my hand tighter. "If she knew you broke up with Leo to make way for her, the guilt would destroy her. For my sake, don't let her know we told you. Just let it be your decision. Please." I stared at her, my mind numb, before slowly pulling my hand from her grasp. "Okay," I heard myself say. "I'll do it." She burst into tears of relief, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," over and over. When I walked out of the room, I saw Chloe and Leo standing at opposite ends of the living room. She was laughing, playing a game with the neighborhood kids, handing out cupcakes I had baked. "These are from the beautiful bride-to-be, Ava. Make sure you tell her congratulations later, okay?" Leo's gaze was fixed on her. It was tender, possessive, a look of profound, unbreakable connection. It all clicked into place. Every anniversary when he'd insist I invite Chloe along, I thought he was just being inclusive. The 3 tickets he always bought for the amusement park. The extra skincare sets he told me to pick up for her. It wasn't thoughtfulness, it was guilt. They had been lying to me for 6 years. 6 years out of the 7 we'd been together. My mind flashed back to high school, Chloe getting a month of detention for punching a boy who made a crude joke about me. Chloe, after my first big fight with Leo in college, riding a 19-hour Greyhound bus just to show up at my dorm and take me out for drinks. Now I had to wonder, after she talked a drunk me into bed, had she met up with him? Had they connected under the stars, bonding over their shared love for me, a love that twisted into something else entirely? Every memory of her loyalty, every act of love, now felt like a dose of expertly administered poison. Seeing me by the doorway, Chloe immediately broke away from the kids and rushed over, her face a perfect mask of concern. "Hey, you look pale. Did you catch a chill last night?" She fussed over me, smoothing the fabric of my dress. "This crimson dress looks incredible on you. Leo must have saved a galaxy in a past life to deserve you." I looked down at the silk, then at her. "You're the one who helped me pick it. You said it would go perfectly with a modern romance theme, just like yours." She was wearing a blush pink dress, a shade that complemented mine but somehow matched the classic lines of Leo's charcoal suit. Even better, she beamed. See? My taste is impeccable. As long as you have me, you're set. Was she picking a dress for her best friend, the maid of honor, or dressing for a role she secretly wished was her own? My brain couldn't process it anymore. Leo appeared with 2 glasses of water, handing one to each of us. You've been standing for a while. Stay hydrated. Chloe playfully nudged him. Look at you. So considerate. I guess I can see why my Ava fell for you. Of course, he said, his eyes flicking to her for a split second. She's my fiancée now. I noticed the water in my glass was icy cold. Chloe's had no condensation, it was room temperature. He was so damn thoughtful. My fingers tightened around the glass. I was the star of this farce, and all I wanted to do was run. Leo must have sensed my mood shift. What's wrong? He murmured, his voice low. Nervous. Just woke up too early, I guess, I lied. Chloe took my hand, pulling me toward my bedroom. Come on, let me touch up your makeup. It's your big day, you have to be flawless. In the mirror, I watched her meticulously fill in my brows, her touch gentle and practiced. I remembered the summer after high school graduation, the 2 of us trying to teach ourselves makeup in this very room, ending up looking like circus clowns. We were too embarrassed to go home, so we spent the whole day at the mall, pooling our last few dollars to share a single corn dog. We could never go back there. I tilted my head back, meeting her eyes in the reflection. Chloe, are you keeping any secrets from me? The hand holding the eyebrow pencil faltered for a fraction of a second. Yes, she said. I held my breath. I've already scoped out a place with male dancers, she declared, her voice mischievous. I plan on going quietly. Once you're a married woman, you'll have to live vicariously through me. She threw her head back and laughed, a bright, carefree sound that extinguished the last flicker of warmth in my heart. Even now, she wouldn't tell me the truth. Outside, a string of firecrackers went off, signaling that the formal part of the party was about to begin. The firecrackers snapped and crackled in the yard like tiny bones breaking, a sharp percussion that made everyone in the living room clap and cheer. Someone turned up the music. An aunt shouted for photos. A cousin ran past me with a paper crown half sliding off his head. I stood very still and listened to the pounding inside my chest. It was not music and it was not celebration. It was a clock I had ignored for years finally catching up to me. Chloe dusted my cheeks with powder and handed me a tube of lipstick. She smiled like we were 17 again getting ready for graduation photos. The blush dress floated around her knees and the light made a halo out of the flyaway hairs at her temple. She had always looked like a girl who could get what she wanted without ever asking. I had been proud of her for that. I had wanted that kind of certainty to rub off on me. Now it felt like something stolen. There was a knock on the door. Leo did not wait for an answer. He slipped inside with that polished ease that charmed receptionists and waiters and my parents. His eyes found mine first, then slid to Chloe. For a moment all 3 of us were quiet, the music braiding with the small explosions outside. The silence inside the room was a different kind of sound. It was the air between a match and the strike. We are starting the toasts, he said. Your dad wants us downstairs in 5? His smile was the same smile he had used when we signed our first lease. When the bank approved a credit limit that made us both giddy. When he asked if I could teach him to cook a simple pasta sauce and burned the garlic and we laughed anyway. I felt the shape of that life rise up like a ghost and I wanted to reach for it, to tell the ghost to stay. Instead I looked past him at my reflection. My face did not belong to a person about to be engaged. It belonged to a person about to lose something big in public. 5 minutes, I said. He lingered long enough to take one step toward me and then another. He kissed my forehead. Then he turned and left. The click of the door was soft. I still jumped. Chloe set down the lipstick. I studied her and tried to find the girl who once swore we would never lie to each other. The girl who had split her corn dog with me and saved half her fries because she knew I would pretend I was not hungry and then ask for them anyway. I searched for that girl and found a woman who had chosen a dress that matched my theme, whose parents had asked me to step aside as if I was a chair blocking a door. Are you happy for me? She asked, almost teasing. Big day. Your life is changing. I wanted to say a lot of sentences. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say tell me you are pregnant with a stranger. Tell me you made a mistake with a bartender or a neighbor or a boy from a summer class. Tell me anything that does not make me think the last 6 years of my life were an exercise in not seeing what was right in front of me. I swallowed all of it. I am ready, I said. We walked into the hallway. The smell of roasted chicken and butter and vanilla frosting rolled up the stairs like a warm tide. On the landing I stopped. Chloe stopped too. We stood shoulder to shoulder at the top of the staircase and looked down at the room where our birthdays had been held, where we watched New Year fireworks through the same window for decades, where we learned to dance by copying an aunt who had never actually learned to dance. My parents had strung paper lanterns from the ceiling. My mother had put fresh flowers on every surface. It looked like a celebration that had never known sorrow. When we reached the bottom step, my mother saw me and clapped her hands. There she is, she said. Our girl. The room turned as one creature and smiled at me. Leo joined me and we became a pair under all those eyes, bright and expectant. My father raised his glass first. He spoke like he always does at family events, brief and cheerful and careful not to cry. He said the thing fathers are supposed to say. He said I had grown into a woman with grit and kindness, that Leo was lucky, that our house had always been better when it was full of voices. He told a joke about the time Leo tried to fix a leaky sink and we had to call a plumber at midnight. People laughed. I tried too. More toasts followed. A cousin talked about my patience with her terrible math homework. An aunt praised my mother for raising me so well. Leo stood and talked too. He kept it sweet and short and looked at me like he had always looked at me when the subject was us. The room oohed at all the right lines. When he finished, he reached for my hand. Your turn, he said. I had not planned words. I had not slept. I did not know how to build a bridge between what everyone expected and what I had to do. I climbed onto the low step that we sometimes used as a stage when we were kids. I looked for Chloe. She stood near the doorway with her parents, a plate of cupcakes in her hands. She had iced them herself. She had drawn small red hearts with a steady wrist. The hearts looked neat and patient. I thought of her message, the 5,000 words I had not been meant to see, and of the heart emoji she tagged like a seal of faith. Thank you for being here, I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to a polite stranger. My mother beamed at me and dabbed at her eyes with a folded napkin. I saw every face rise and sync with my words. I felt the weight of the story they had placed on me. The wonderful romance. The sensible match. The childhood friend who would stand beside me holding flowers and fixing my veil. I took a breath. I could not deliver the story they wanted. I would not hand over a speech that turned me into a liar, too. I always thought love was simple, I said. You pick a person and you keep picking them. When it gets hard, you pick them again. When life is loud, you turn down the volume and listen for their voice. I always thought that was enough. Maybe it still is. But it is not what I have. Murmurs, a ripple like wind through tall grass. My mother straightened. My father set his glass down with a careful click. Leo shifted beside me but did not release my hand. I pulled my fingers free. I looked for Chloe again. Her eyes were round and bright and already wet. She shook her head once, almost imperceptibly. Do not, she mouthed. Please. I saw her mother, knees on my bedroom carpet, asking me to step aside. I saw her father, the man who taught me to change a tire, standing with his hands pressed together like he was already praying. I looked at Leo. His face was open and afraid. I cannot get engaged today, I said. Silence. Absolute. Even the music seemed to bow its head and stop breathing. For a heartbeat the house fell away and I was suspended over an empty space. Then the room surged back with whispers and the scrape of a chair and the sound of someone gasping the way a swimmer gasps when they surface too fast. My mother moved first. She did not touch me. She stood where she was and tried to hold the room together with her voice. We will take a short break, she said to no one in particular and everyone at once. Please enjoy the food. Leo spoke at the same time, too soft for the crowd but loud enough for me. Ava, he said. Wait. We can talk upstairs. Chloe set the cupcakes down, hands trembling, and began to herd the kids toward the yard. She did it like a person trained in emergencies, calm, efficient, soothing. She did not look at me again. I stepped down from the makeshift stage and faced my parents. My mother lifted her chin. Her eyes burned but did not spill. My father opened his mouth and closed it. He was a man who fixed things with quiet work. He could not fix this. Upstairs, my mother said at last. We filed back to my room, the same room where I had learned the truth in pieces. Leo closed the door behind us. My mother stood near the desk. My father leaned against the dresser. The three of them formed a triangle. I stood inside it. Tell us what this is, my father said. I looked at Leo. He held my gaze for a second, then looked down. I'm not going to give a speech that asks everyone to celebrate an engagement when the person I am engaged to is in love with someone else, I said. I am not going to turn my life into a party trick. My mother inhaled sharply. With who? She asked. The question was naive and brave at once. Leo lifted his head. He took a breath to speak. I raised my hand. He stopped. I do not think you want to hear it from me, I said. I think you should ask Leo. My father turned his head to Leo. My mother did too. For a second, he looked like a boy who had snuck into a movie he was too young to see and gotten caught by the usher. He scrubbed a hand over his face. I made a mistake, he said. His voice was hoarse. I did not mean for it to happen. I never meant to hurt anyone. My mother closed her eyes. My father did not move. He waited for detail, for truth, for something better than a shapeless admission. Leo looked at me, then at the floor again. It was Chloe, he said. My mother swayed like someone had nudged her in a crowd. She caught herself on the desk. My father lowered his head. None of us spoke for a long breath. I could hear the party below us trying to keep going. A laugh rose and broke. A song changed. Once, I said, and heard how small the word was in the room. Then I forced the next ones out. Once, or many times. His answer was quiet. Many. I felt the line that connected me to my girlhood snag and split. I saw a yard full of summers, two girls with knees grass-stained and hearts wide open. I saw 6 years of double dates disguised as surprises. I saw myself in every scene and realized I had been a placeholder in half of them. My father spoke without looking at me. He addressed Leo. How long? 6 years, Leo said. Then he added, like a man who cannot help trying to make a measurement sound like mercy, not constantly. We tried to stop. We kept trying. My mother made a sound I had never heard from her. It was not crying. It was the sound a person makes when they discover a wall in their house is not load-bearing after all and the ceiling tips. She opened the door. I thought she would leave. Instead she called Chloe. Chloe stood on the threshold with her parents. Her face was chalk white. I could not tell if she had been crying or if she had run out of tears. She did not step inside. Leo did not move toward her. My mother looked from one to the other and then to me. I recognized the look. It was the expression she wore when she had to decide which bills to pay first when I was little and money was tight. It was a look that measured damage. I'm going to ask this once, my mother said to Chloe. Are you pregnant? Chloe hesitated too long to make a lie useful. Yes, she said. Leo made a broken sound. He covered his mouth with the back of his hand. Chloe stared at the floor. Are you keeping it? My mother asked. No, Chloe said. Her voice was even. Then it cracked. I do not know. Yes. No. I do not know. I thought if I left for London I could pretend it never happened. I thought if I made the decision alone I could save everyone from this. There is no saving, my father said softly. There is only telling the truth and paying for it. Chloe looked at me then as if she had only just remembered I was in the room. The look was raw and pleading and angry all at once, as if she wanted me to say something that would unknot the past and the future in one sentence. I had no sentence like that. I am calling off the engagement, I said. I am not doing it to give you two a happy ending. I am doing it because I am not making myself smaller to fit a story I did not write. You do not need my permission to love each other. You already took it. But you will not have my blessing. You will not have my applause. You will not have my silence. Leo stepped toward me. I stepped back. He stopped. I am sorry, he said. I know that is not enough. I know I am years late with that word. I am not a court, I said. I am not here to assign fines you can pay. I am here to pack a bag and leave. My mother reached for my hand then. Her fingers were cool and steady. For the first time since the cupcakes and the lanterns and the toasts, I felt held by something strong enough to bear weight. My father nodded once. An agreement that we would move through this like family, even if the shape of our family changed at the edges. I packed quickly. I tossed clothes into a suitcase without folding, and then I stopped, because the ritual of folding is not about neatness, it is about believing you will open the case in a place where the future is not a stranger. I made myself fold my favorite shirt anyway. I placed my grandmother's pendant in its small box. I took the photo strip of Chloe and me from senior year off the mirror and put it back where it had been. Some things should not come with me. Downstairs, the party had splintered into pockets of gossip and attempts at normal conversation. My mother cleared her throat and announced that the engagement was postponed. She made it sound like we had collectively decided to wait for spring flowers. The neighbors nodded with that complicated politeness that means I will call you tomorrow for the real story. People drifted toward the door. Someone hugged me and told me to take vitamins. Someone else pressed a plastic container of leftovers into my hand out of reflex. I set it down. I did not want to carry anything heavy. Outside, the air was cold and clean. The lanterns glowed like moons caught in branches. I took one step onto the porch and there she was at the bottom of the stairs, arms wrapped around herself, looking younger than I had seen her look in years. Ava, Chloe said. She did not move closer. The old reflex to close the space between us tugged at me and then let go. If you want me to say I forgive you, I said, I cannot give you that now. Maybe not ever. If you want me to say I will be fine, I will say it because it is true. If you want me to say I understand, I do. That is the worst part. I understand how it happens. You love a person and you do not know when to stop. You make 1,000 choices that look small and end up building a city you cannot live in without destroying someone else's house. She flinched. She took one step up, then stopped again. I want to say that I love you, she said. And that I am sorry. And that none of those words matter because I said them to myself for years and still did this. There is nothing I can give you that would make any of us better right now, I said. So I am going to give you distance. Leo's car door shut somewhere down the block. He had gone to the curb alone and sat on the hood like a man who has lost his map. I did not go to him. I rolled my suitcase down the path and kept my eyes on the gate. The latch stuck the way it always had. I lifted it a little and it released. I walked out. I did not go to our apartment. I could not be in rooms where the furniture remembered us as a pair. I booked a small room at a long-stay hotel near the river with a kitchenette and thin towels and a window that looked over a parking lot where seagulls argued with each other like they were auditioning for an opera. The clerk did not look twice at me. I liked him for that. I liked the hum of the vending machine and the way the ice bucket sweated in my hand. That first night I did not cry. Crying felt like a performance and I had given enough performances for one day. I made tea and sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my phone. Messages poured in. My mother. My father. A cousin with 100 question marks. A coworker who had heard a rumor through the grapevine and asked if I was free to talk. I put the phone face down. Then I flipped it again because somewhere in that storm would be the message I could not ignore. It came at 1 a.m. It was not from Leo. It was from an unknown number with a London country code. I am the HR lead for the London office, the message read. Chloe listed you as her emergency contact on her transfer file. She has just withdrawn her acceptance. I thought you should know. If there is anything you need from my side, please say. I stared at the text and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. So she was not running. Not to London, anyway. She was staying inside the city where I had built my life, in the rooms where my name was still on half the dinnerware and the doorman would still wave like we were about to become a family. She was staying, and that meant the next chapter of my life would not be a clean page but a palimpsest. I would have to write over the ghost of every line we had already written. I blocked Leo's number. I blocked Chloe's. I did not do it to punish them. I did it because I knew myself. I would read any sentence they sent and I would try to fix it. I would try to turn the hurt into a project and the project into a triumph and the triumph into a story. I was not ready to be a protagonist who learned a lesson. I wanted to be a person who did not bleed out when someone called her name. In the morning I woke before my alarm and walked to the river. I watched a rower carve a straight line through the gray water. The city was quiet around the edges, the air smelling like wet stone and coffee. I stood on the pedestrian bridge and thought about what comes after humiliation, after revelation, after a room full of people pretends not to know your business while absolutely knowing your business. The answer turned out to be simple. After all that comes errands. I made a list on a folded receipt. Call the landlord. Call the bank. Call the venue that had been holding a date for a party that would not exist. Call the florist. Call the tailor who had pinned the dress and told me I should wear red more often because it made me look fearless. I crossed things off one by one. I cried once in the stairwell at the bank because the hold music was too cheerful and the fluorescent light made everything flat, and because I did not want to cry anywhere that had meaning. I cried like a person in a public place who knows the rules. Quiet, fast, tissues already in hand, no gulping breaths to alarm a stranger. By the end of the day I had a stack of confirmations and a smaller stack of fees. Money bled away like heat. I could afford it. I would afford the rest. The part I could not budget for were the messages that found me anyway, even through the blocks. A screenshot forwarded by a cousin of a cousin of a friend. A thread in a neighborhood group. The words were always tidied into the shapes people use to make sense of messy things. The bride called it off. The groom was not ready. The best friend stepped in. The best friend is a hero. The best friend is a villain. Everyone is a cautionary tale. I turned off the phone and stood at the hotel window. I pressed my forehead to the glass. In the parking lot a gull strutted between cars like a small, rude emperor. I said the line out loud that I should have said to the crowd. I said it because I needed to hear it in the air, not just in my head. I pick myself, I said. I keep picking myself. On the third day my mother called the hotel line because she is the kind of mother who will try every number in the directory when you block her cell and you forget the hotel clerk is not on your side. I picked up. We were quiet for a long while, breathing to each other like we used to do when I was little and had a fever, and she lay on the floor beside my bed to listen to me sleep. Your father wants to drive you to your apartment so you can get more things, she said. He will not go up. He will just wait in the car. I do not want to see Leo, I said. He is not there, she said. He left a note with the doorman. It said he would stay with his brother until you made a plan. I could hear the way my mother said brother. It was neutral, and it was not. She would never hate someone on my behalf because hate is a flame that eats the house that holds it. She would clip the wick and keep the lamp. But she was not about to forget. Come in the morning, I said. At 9 a.m. my father honked twice, which is how he has always said come down if you are ready and take your time if you are not. We drove in easy silence. At the building, the doorman raised a sympathetic eyebrow. He slid a small envelope across the desk. Inside was a key card and a folded note. I did not open the note. I held the key card until the plastic warmed in my hand, and then I went upstairs. The apartment smelled like lemons and the faint sweetness of the bouquet on the table that had begun to sag. I packed the things that felt like me and left the things that felt like us. I paused at the bookcase and ran a finger along the spines. I took down the travel book with the sticky notes and the scribbled dream routes. I put it back. I took the photo of my parents on their 20th anniversary and slipped it into the pocket of my tote. I opened the freezer and laughed at the 3 pints of vanilla ice cream we kept for nights when nothing else worked. I left them. Some ghosts can live in a freezer for a while and do no harm. On the counter was another envelope with my name. I did not open it. I slid it under the toaster for future me to deal with or throw away. I did not need to hear Leo say he was sorry again, or that he was choosing Chloe, or that he was choosing me, or that he was choosing a quiet apartment somewhere else to think. I did not need any choice that involved me holding the door open while he decided when to walk through. When I came back down, my father did not ask if I had seen anything I did not want to see. He asked if I wanted lunch. We went to a diner that has served the same tuna melt for as long as I can remember. The waitress called him honey and called me sweetheart and did not ask why my eyes were red. We ate and did not talk about love. We talked about the neighborhood street fair and the ridiculous price of cherries this season and whether the Yankees pitching would collapse by July. I felt the steadying drag of ordinary life pull me back from the ledge I had been towing. Back at the hotel, my mother had left a bag with homemade soup at the front desk and a note in her neat, efficient handwriting. Come home if you want. Or do not. I will love you in either case. I sat on the bed with the note in my lap. The soup was still warm. I cried into it and ate it anyway. That night I dreamed of a house with 3 doors. One door led to a room where I married Leo and pretended we had always been honest. Another door led to a room where I forgave Chloe and we went back to braiding each other's hair and picking each other's dresses, and I never thought about the way she had leaned into his warmth on that cold street. The third door led to a room I could not see. I woke up before I could open it. In the morning I decided I would find out what was behind the third door. I did not know if the room would be empty or full of new furniture. I did not know if the lights would work. I only knew that I was done staring at closed doors. I started with a small thing. I made a list of places I had wanted to try and never had because I was always planning for 2. A pottery studio. A boxing class. A language course that met on Tuesdays at a bookshop with a cat that slept across the dictionaries. I picked one and signed up. The confirmation email came through with a subject line that made me smile in spite of myself. Welcome to Beginner's Wheel, it said. See you Thursday. At noon I got a message from an unknown number. It was Chloe's mother. We will not ask you for anything, she wrote. We will keep our distance. I wanted you to know that I told Chloe to tell the truth to the people who matter. I wanted you to know that I told her I was wrong to ask you to step aside. I wanted you to know I love you like a daughter. You do not have to write back. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling. I thought about the way love can twist itself into knots and call it sacrifice. I thought about the strength it takes to name a wrong thing by its right name. I wrote back one sentence. Thank you for telling me that. Then I put the phone in a drawer and went outside and walked until my legs ached in a good way. On the way back to the hotel I passed a shop window with a sign that said alterations in red thread. I looked at the dress on the mannequin. It was crimson, almost the same shade as the dress Chloe had chosen for me. The seamstress inside looked up and smiled. I smiled back at the stranger. I kept walking. I did not need a new dress yet. I needed new days stacked end to end until the stack felt like a life. That night, as the gulls shrieked and the vending machine hummed and the city moved through its loud private business, I opened my notebook and wrote the first line of the next chapter. No more pretending, I wrote. Then I underlined it twice. The first week after the engagement imploded moved like wet cement, slow, heavy, inevitable. Every hour stretched too long and then vanished without trace, as if time itself didn't want to remember. I woke every morning in that hotel room between the hum of the mini-fridge and the thin curtains that let in a blade of gray light. I used to wake up to Leo's heartbeat against my back and the smell of coffee he brewed before work. Now it was the metallic taste of silence. By the second week, the messages began again. Not from Leo, not directly. From mutual friends, from coworkers, from people who thought they were helping. Are you okay? Did you hear Chloe quit her London job? Leo's staying at his brother's place. He looks awful. Every text was a small knife disguised as concern. I stopped answering. I muted everything and learned how to eat meals alone again. I went to the pottery class I'd signed up for. My first bowl collapsed in the middle, clay sagging like a spine giving out. The instructor smiled kindly and said, "That's good progress. It means you're learning control." I wanted to laugh, or scream. But I kept shaping another piece, smaller, steadier. I began collecting tiny routines like lifelines. Morning walks by the river. Reading in the cafe near the old theater. Writing in a notebook I didn't plan to show anyone. The hotel staff learned my name. The barista at the cafe started remembering my order: black tea, 1 sugar, no milk. I liked the anonymity that came with recognition without intimacy. It was safe. Still, some nights the memories came back like ghosts tapping on the window. Leo's laugh. Chloe's perfume. My mother's trembling voice as she said, "Sweetheart, maybe forgiveness is a kind of freedom." Freedom. The word felt like salt on the cut. It was late one evening, about 3 weeks after I'd left, when the front desk called my room. "Miss Ava, there's someone asking to speak to you. He says it's important. Should I tell him you're out?" My stomach turned to ice. I already knew who it was. Tell him to leave whatever it is at the counter. I don't want to talk. There was a pause. He said it's not something he can leave, ma'am. I took a breath. Then tell him no. When I hung up, my pulse was racing so hard it hurt. I stood at the window for a long time, expecting a knock that never came. Eventually I peeked through the curtain. The street was empty. Only the reflection of the vending machine glowed back at me. But the next morning, when I opened the door, a small box sat on the floor. No note, no signature. Inside was the pendant I'd left in our apartment, my grandmother's necklace, and a single folded sheet of paper. You deserve peace. Not my presents. No name, but I knew the handwriting. I folded it back, not crying, not smiling, just tired. I put the necklace on. For the first time, I didn't feel like it belonged to someone else's story. By the start of the second month, I found a small apartment near the water, 1 bedroom, a tiny balcony, just enough space for the quiet. My father helped me move what little I'd kept. He didn't ask about Leo or Chloe. Instead, he fixed the leaky faucet and left a pack of light bulbs under the sink. That was his version of comfort. My mother visited once, bringing homemade bread and a dozen unasked questions hidden behind small talk. She told me the neighborhood was gossiping less, that time eats scandal faster than we think. Then she added softly, Chloe's family moved away. Somewhere near Bristol. Bristol. Far, but not far enough. I nodded and said, that's good. That night I slept through without waking. The first full night's sleep in months. But healing isn't linear. 2 days later, I ran into Leo. It happened in the most ordinary way, in line at a grocery store. He was thinner, unshaven, wearing the same gray hoodie he used to clean the car in. He froze when he saw me, half smile dying on his lips. Ava, he said. My name came out like an apology. I looked at the conveyor belt between us, his groceries, pasta, detergent, 2 bottles of water. Mine, tea, soap, fruit. Parallel lives divided by a rubber divider. Leo, I said, voice steady. For a second, I saw everything that could have been, Sunday breakfasts, anniversaries, growing old. Then I remembered the messages, the streetlight, Chloe's voice saying it's my baby too. He swallowed. You look okay. I am. He nodded, searching my face for something, anger, affection, maybe forgiveness. I gave him none. Chloe's gone, he said quietly. She left without saying goodbye. I didn't answer. I wasn't sure if he wanted pity or closure. He took a slow breath. I never wanted to hurt you. You did, I said. Wanting doesn't change that. The cashier interrupted, asking if we wanted separate bills. The question hung between us like a metaphor too cruel to ignore. Separate, I said quickly. He looked like he'd been punched. When I left the store, the air smelled of rain. I didn't look back. Weeks passed. The world didn't care about my heartbreak, which was oddly comforting. Seasons kept turning, deadlines kept coming, people kept falling in love and out of it. I started working again, taking freelance projects that filled my days and drained my mind. In quiet hours, I wrote, not about Leo or Chloe, but about women who rebuilt from nothing, who walked away from burning houses and didn't look back. I wasn't sure if I was writing fiction or autobiography. Then, one morning, I received an email from a publishing blog. They wanted to feature one of my short stories. The editor wrote, your voice feels lived in, like someone who's seen ruin and still believes in light. I laughed, a sound that surprised me. Maybe, I thought, that's what survival is, not forgetting the ruin, but building light around it. I printed the email and taped it above my desk. 3 months later, I received a call I wasn't expecting. Ava? The voice was quiet, trembling. Chloe. I nearly dropped the phone. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then anger surged, familiar and hot. How did you get this number? Your mother gave it to me, she said, guilt-lacing every syllable. Please don't hang up. I just need to tell you something. I didn't speak. I kept the baby, she whispered. I'm 7 months along now. Silence expanded between us. I sat down slowly, my heart slamming in my chest. I didn't want to call. But I thought you should know. You don't owe me anything, I needed to tell you the truth. My voice came out flat. Why now? Because I couldn't stand you finding out from someone else. And because Leo doesn't know. The world tilted again, like it had that night under the streetlight. You didn't tell him? No. He moved away. He's working in another city. He sends messages sometimes, but I don't answer. I'm trying to do this alone. A storm of emotions hit me: rage, sorrow, pity, confusion. What do you want from me, Chloe? Nothing, she said quickly. I swear. I just wanted you to hear it from me. I'm sorry, Ava. For everything. I ruined both our lives. No, I said quietly. You didn't ruin mine. You freed it. She started crying softly. I still think about us. About the girls we were. I buried those girls, I said. You should too? I hung up. For a long time, I sat in silence. Then I went to the balcony, letting the cold air sting my skin. I realized I didn't hate her anymore, not truly. Hatred would mean she still had power over me. What I felt was emptiness, and beyond that, peace. Months passed. Spring came. My small apartment filled with plants and morning light. I sold a short story to a magazine. I started volunteering at a youth center, teaching creative writing to kids who thought their voices didn't matter. Every time I told them your story is enough, I believed it a little more for myself too. One afternoon, after class, I walked by the river. The same spot where I'd once stood with a broken engagement and a notebook full of pain. Now, the water shimmered gold under the sun. I sat on a bench and watched families pass by, laughter, strollers, dogs. Life went on, messy and miraculous. A man sat on the other end of the bench, older than me, sketchbook in hand. He looked up, smiled politely, then went back to drawing the skyline. Something about the ordinary piece of it made me smile back. Beautiful day, he said. It is, I replied. And for the first time in a long, long time, I meant it. That night, I opened my journal again. I wrote. Maybe the worst endings are just disguised beginnings. Maybe love isn't something you lose, but something you learn to hold differently. Outside, the city glowed with life. Somewhere out there, Leo and Chloe were living their choices. And I, finally, fully, was living mine. 6 months had passed since the call. Life had a strange way of finding rhythm again, even after the sharpest dissonance. The morning light no longer felt intrusive, the quiet no longer felt like punishment. My small apartment had become a sanctuary of soft clutter, half-finished pottery on the windowsill, books stacked like uneven towers, a mug with still standing painted in chipped letters. I wasn't the same woman who once measured love by how much she could endure. I didn't crave closure anymore, I had built it, one small, deliberate day at a time. Still, there were echoes that refused to fade completely. Some mornings, when the kettle hissed, I'd remember Leo humming in the kitchen. Some evenings, when laughter drifted from the cafe downstairs, I'd think of Chloe and me at 16, whispering about futures we thought were ours to command. But those memories no longer sliced open the present, they brushed against it like waves against rock, shaping, not destroying. One Sunday, my mother called. Her voice carried that mix of hesitation and love I'd come to recognize. Ava, there's something you should know. Chloe had her baby last week. My chest tightened, not in pain, but in some complicated tenderness I hadn't expected. A boy or a girl? A girl. She named her Grace. Grace. A name that sounded too pure, too clean for the mess that had created her. Yet somehow, it fit. She's healthy, my mother continued. And Chloe. She's doing it on her own. No, Leo. Her parents moved in to help. For a long moment, I said nothing. Then, quietly, good. I could almost hear my mother smile through the phone. I'm proud of you, you know. For walking away. For living again. I'm just trying, I said. That's more than most ever do. After we hung up, I went to the window. The city glowed under a pale afternoon sun, ordinary and forgiving. Somewhere out there, a newborn was taking her first breath. And somewhere else, Leo was probably wondering when everything he'd built had turned to dust. It wasn't my story anymore. That realization felt like fresh air. 2 months later, I received an invitation in the mail, thick cream cardstock, handwritten. It was from Chloe. Dear Ava, I don't expect you to come. But I wanted you to know that Grace will be baptized next month. You're listed as her godmother. You don't have to say yes, I'll understand. But you were the truest part of my life once, and I want my daughter to know what strength looks like. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it neatly and set it on the table. For days, I didn't respond. But something in those words kept echoing, the truest part of my life once. When the day came, I found myself standing outside a small church near the river, sunlight pooling on the stone steps. I didn't go in right away. Through the open doors, I saw a modest gathering, Chloe, pale but calm, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in white. Her parents stood behind her. No, Leo. When she finally spotted me, her breath caught. She didn't move, didn't smile, just stared, as if I were a ghost she hadn't expected to see. Then she mouthed a single word, "Thank you." I nodded once and slipped into a pew near the back. I wasn't there to rebuild a friendship or forgive a betrayal. I was there to witness a life beginning, one untouched by lies, one that might grow up learning that love and honesty should never be enemies. After the ceremony, I walked outside quietly. The breeze smelled of spring and wet stone. Behind me, Chloe was surrounded by well-wishers. I didn't wait for her to follow. But she did. "Ava," she said softly. "I didn't think you'd come." I almost didn't. She adjusted Grace in her arms. The baby's eyes fluttered open, clear, unburdened. I felt something in my chest loosen. "I know I can't undo what I did," Chloe said. "But I want to raise her differently. I want her to grow up knowing that truth is worth keeping, even when it hurts." I nodded. "Then start there. Let that be the legacy." She looked at me, eyes glassy. "Do you think we'll ever be okay again?" I thought about it. Not the same kind of okay. But maybe a better one. She smiled faintly, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You were always stronger than me." "No," I said. "Just done being weak." We stood there for a few seconds, not sisters again, not strangers either. Just two women learning to live with the ghosts of their choices. I reached out and touched Grace's tiny hand. She gripped my finger instinctively, a soft, new life force pulsing against mine. "Be kind," I whispered to her. "But never small." Then I walked away. That evening, back in my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto the balcony. The city below shimmered like a sea of tiny promises. Somewhere a violin played faintly from an open window. For the first time, I felt full, not of anger or grief, but of something quieter and deeper, acceptance. I opened my notebook and wrote the final entry under the words "No more pretending." I once thought betrayal was the end of everything good. But it was the beginning of myself. Love is not about keeping someone beside you. It's about standing beside yourself when they're gone. I have finally learned that losing everything can sometimes be the most honest way to start again. As the night deepened, I closed the notebook, placed it beside the finished clay bowl from my first pottery class, and smiled. Outside, the wind carried the faint chime of church bells, distant, steady, forgiving.